Welcome to the Enlightened Misfits podcast, the space for entrepreneurs on a quest for unwavering certainty and purpose. I'm your host, Lauren, and each episode is a compass guiding you through authentic conversations, unraveling the mysteries of your human design chart, and offering tools from the remarkable guest. Join me as we embark on a journey to manifest greatness and create a life aligned with our deepest purpose. This is the space where misfits find their enlightenment. Welcome to the Enlightened Misfits podcast. Welcome back to the Enlightened Misfits podcast. I'm your host, Lauren, and in today's episode, I have Ren. She is a life coach. I'm so happy to have you here with us this morning. So before we were started recording, we were talking about all the things that you do. So kind of tell us, the listeners, a little bit about who you are, who you work with, and maybe a little bit of a little bit backstory. It could be a Cliff Notes version if you want, of where, kind of where your journey now has led to and where you were before.
Yeah. I always like to say, first off, yes, I'm Ren. I am a life coach. I'm trauma informed and certified, which we were just chatting about. And I largely help. I like to say I would never turn away somebody who actually needs help, but my primary focus is the queer community. And I primarily work with queer individuals, but I also offer couples coaching, which is pretty cool. Has been probably my biggest learning experience, but it's been fun. Um, my friends and I joke, we'll refer to the different versions of Ren. We're like, that was Austin Ren. This isn't me. That was a different girl. Because when you really stand back and look, you can so clearly see the different versions of me. But the one through line that's always been there is this mission statement I've found in college that I want to be the person I needed when I was little and who never showed up. So that led me to, instead of where a lot of my friends were like, oh, I want to be a veterinarian, I want to be a teacher, I want to be a musician. And I'm like, I don't know. I just knew that I wanted to help people. So I did a year of AmeriCorps service in Austin with AmeriCorps Vista, which was really a wild experience. And I worked at Disney for a bit and then found nonprofits and really fell into the stride of my career there. But while I was like, oh, okay, my 9 to 5 check that I'm fulfilling, the helping people and giving back, check, check, check. And for many years, I was like, okay, boxes checked, I'm happy. But I wasn't. There was something missing. And it was just I have all of this desire, and what fulfills me is helping and giving back. So I was really inspired by my childhood best friend who I watched build her coaching business and took a lot of tips from. And I think from the first time I did a little practice session with one of my friends that I thought was going to be awkward and clunky, and I was going to kind of find out okay, I tried. It went really well, and it felt natural. And it was the first thing that I was like, oh, okay, this is I could just wake up, roll up out of bed and do this. I don't have to put a mask on, put a face on, study for it. It just sort of you very intuitively felt my soul was it's about time. It's about time we got here.
Yes. I think my soul at some point had said the same thing, like, Jesus Christ, Lauren, thank God, or whoever you want to call yourself.
Yeah.
Obviously my soul picked Lauren for whatever reason, but yeah, it's so much easier. I feel like when you don't, and you said about don't put a mask on, I
Mm-hmm.
feel like that is literally what I had to learn this whole lifetime, because not going too much into human design, but my incarnation cross is of masks, so karma of masks. So it's I can put a different mask on to be who I need to be wherever I am. And I've noticed that about myself. And that's with anything. I could have just, you know, I just show up whenever I need to show up. So it's like, people can listen to my voice now and they're like, oh, she sounds horrible. Like, why is she recording a podcast? But it's like I just show up because I need to show up. Same thing with like, I could just had, we'll get into this in a second because I want to know your experience with trauma. But um, like going through my very traumatic experiences, nobody ever knew. Like nobody ever knew. Never talked about it. I never felt the need to talk about it. I just felt like, oh, I can just do this on my own kind of thing. So, yeah, definitely. I
Yep.
definitely understand the whole mask part because I feel like, needless to say, regardless of human design or whatever your incarnation cross is and why you reincarnated here or whatever, I feel like all of us wear it or at some point wear a mask because we have to protect ourselves.
Hmm.
So, can you kind of tell the listeners a little bit about your healing journey and maybe what led you to become a certified and trauma informed life coach?
Yeah, I would love to. Um, I had a lot of childhood trauma, which I deal mostly with dark humor. So any any jokes are all love, but I always joke like, "Oh, that's my villain origin story." But it really was because um while it was super damaging and I struggled with it for many, many years, um I also have always had this sense, I think it comes from this one conversation with my grandmother who was like emotionally raised me and was like another mother figure to me. I was just like, going on and on about probably some fifth grade problem. Sarah told this to Susie and Jessica didn't sit with us at lunch or something. And she was just like, okay, but what are you getting out of this? Like, you're sitting here spinning, you're worrying, which she used to always call, I'm sure you heard the wheel, like the rocking chair, keep you busy for hours, but not get you anywhere. And then I just sort of started asking myself, like, what can I get out of this? Like, how can I make this not just a failure? So I started to use my trauma. Well, I started to greet it, I think, for one, and I like let it in because for a while it was like, no, not me. Other people who go through, and I could even list exactly what I went through, have trauma, but not me. Like, that's not me. So I think I had to name it and welcome it and sit with it, which took a lot of years. But I think I find in coaching conversations and conversations at the grocery store that it helps me understand who I'm speaking with. And it has definitely led to like me being a little more open-minded with maybe someone I don't think I would have before my healing journey. I write people off a little less. And I really feel like working and healing my trauma has helped me kind of see it in others. So I also learned to like stop taking it so personally because it probably has very little to do with you. Um, but this is all being said in post healing. I found myself barreling down the nonprofit road, and wound up in the addiction field, which is super personal. I'm a recovering addict myself. So in a lot of ways, it was beautiful and fulfilling, and I loved it. And in a lot of ways, it was heartbreaking, and it burnt me out so fast. And then right around then, I started seeing a therapist here in Delaware. And while she wasn't my first therapist, I think she was like my first good for Ren therapist because I had like had a mental health crisis in college, which was like the culmination of me like greeting my trauma. And I had mandated therapy, but we all know how that goes. And I had like court mandated childhood therapy, but I think I like talked about my math test more often than anything. Um, but she was the first one to like name my diagnoses for one and like pull up a mirror and just say like talk. And my last therapist, through working with this one, I realized just sort of co-signed all my bullshit, so of course I loved her. But this one really made me like go up to the attic and pull the suitcases and open it and like we joked that we were like Marie Kondoing my trauma suitcases.
Yeah.
Um, and while of course you don't pull anything out and say like this sparks joy, um, it was me asking like, how can I use this or how can I heal this, within myself? And which has ultimately led to my big healing journey has led me to really getting to know my inner child and my inner teen, who I avoided for a long time.
Yes. Yeah.
But they're there and we're working together and I think we're here now. But I think all of those stories in my life and adventures really, if I didn't have a single one of them, it wouldn't have ended up where I am now.
Yeah. And I love that you say that because I guess when I'm every 3 months when I'm in like a shadow phase of like whatever I'm dealing with, right?
Yeah.
I feel like it's usually every 3 months for me, usually.
Mhm.
Like every 3 months, like I have to really feel it, like go in the underworld and like, look at things or whatever. Um, that when you said about like talk therapy not working, which talk therapy sometimes, it works for people. Like I
Mhm.
know I've worked with clients to this day that will do talk therapy and they also do so it seems like you have very similar clients too that will do talk therapy and I feel like that matches what we do. So like I used to do talk therapy, but like you said, it was like me, like mandated from my parents. It wasn't court mandated, but it was mandated from my parents. Like, oh, you're going to see a therapist, and I'm like, okay, what am I going to talk to them about? Like, so they would ask me different things, and I would tell them exactly what they wanted to hear, not really
Exactly.
what I wanted. So I needed really somebody like you have met that tell me like, no, this is what you're going to do, and it's like, oh, I can't hide anymore,
Yeah.
Look at
I
this.
could not hide from her. And I think the most important thing I learned from her is that a big thing that worked, besides like we meshed and, she
Yeah,
felt like she could work with my specific issues, is that she was patient. And that's not something I ever saw or knew as a kid, or really in college or really in the workforce. So I had never really seen, and it's like sort of a silly concept if you don't really stop and think about it, because I said to one of my friends the other day, I was like, I've never like experienced patience until my therapist. And she's like, oh, yes, you have. We all have. And I was like, I really didn't. And she took, I think it was like I was trying to think before this. I think it was 5 or 6 months. We had weekly sessions until I finally one day was like, all right, here's the first suitcase. Let's go. Because
yeah,
I
yeah,
was like, I'd never, and I think my inner child was just, or my inner teen was like, she'll leave, hold on. Like, she's just gonna leave like everyone else. Just tell her what she wants to hear and she'll be fine. But she was like, okay, like seeing right through me the whole time.
yeah. Right.
Woo.
Yeah.
As they
Like,
do.
okay. Yeah. And I like that you talk about that too, because I feel like a lot, especially with what's going on with in the world today with like mental health and
Yeah.
people, like, you know, in my generation, if you were, you know, I hid that I went to therapy. Like it was
Yeah.
not something that it was like socially acceptable. I mean, now it's the most acceptable thing ever,
Hmm.
But same thing with like spirituality and stuff. Like that wasn't accepted either. You were called crazy or you're called a weirdo or like whatever. Like now I take it as a compliment. I mean, I don't feel
Yeah.
like I took it personal back then. I just knew that like, okay, you guys are weirdos. Like you are the weirdos because
Yeah.
you are living in this like
Yeah.
illusion, whatever. But I do like that you had, said about it took 5 weeks because I feel like I've talked to even just like on social media, I see people say, oh, this therapist is not working for me. It's like been a couple weeks. And it's like because you don't trust them.
Hmm.
So I love that you said about it took you 5 weeks. Obviously, you do this for a living, and also you have been in therapy, so you know that it takes time to trust yourself, or I should say, trust the other person. But it's
Yeah.
ultimately about yourself, right? Like it comes back to yourself. So when you talked about mirror, like this, she pulled up like a mirror to you. Do you feel like in all your experiences and all you've learned, this has also influenced the way that you coach your particular clients as well?
I do. I really do. That was a great question, actually. I really
Excited
do.
to hear
Yeah,
it.
I I do. I think actually I would say it impacts every mask I wear or every way that I show up. I think it's there and it's like in the core of who I am now. And I think that is because that's what I saw when I looked in the mirror. I think at first she had literally had me for like therapy homework, like look in a mirror and talk to yourself. She also, one of the first like, oh, I might trust her moments, was that she had me just like for the next week, write down, and I've had my clients do this for the next week. I want you to just take a note, like write it, handwrite it in your notes and your note app, wherever you need it to, do voice memos, whatever. Every little negative thought you have about yourself, just write it down. And then she told me to like, she's like, who would like just find somebody that you would say like one of the people you love the most, like your wife or your best friend, and then read that in the letter to that, read that list to them, but put their name in front where you said like I and me and my. And I was like, I would never do that. That's horrible. I would never just say these things to my partner. And she was like, huh, interesting.
You're
And
like, shit, but I say them
then
to myself.
yeah. And then one day she said, oh, your homework is I want you to, and I have like a long mirror that I can sit on the floor, which is like helps me feel grounded. And I don't think I could do it without that. Um,
Right.
but sit, face the mirror, um, and read that list from, I made a new list that week and read it like imagine you're reading it to like your baby self, your little kid self, your teen self. And I was like, I can't just like degrade her that way. And she was like, I feel like we're getting somewhere. We're so close. Because I am sure you can relate. I am the first to like, when my friends are going through something, the first thing I ask, I learned from my therapist actually, is how can I best show you that I'm in your corner? How can I best show up for you? Because I know what I want to do to help, but I've also been there when like I don't need another casserole. I don't need, I just need someone to come do my dishes, or like I need somebody to like face the grocery store with me. Um, so I think in like ways like that, it's really like kind of fallen into just who I am, both professionally, coaching, personally, spiritually.
Yeah. I was just thinking when you were saying about your friends like asking you like how can you best like how can I best, I was thinking to myself, not that I have a lot of friends, I know a lot of people, but I noticed that maybe I'm thinking nobody ever asks me that. And then
Mhm.
I'm like, but do I ever ask anybody else that? And I think I do. A lot of my friends that I'm really close with, we're not, we can't go to the grocery store together,
Same,
like whatever.
same.
So it's like, but that just gave me I'm just like thinking out loud now that I'm like, well, maybe I actually need to ask them because I had this thought. Usually it's in like when I'm in the underworld by
Yeah.
myself, because I have to do it by myself. Like it's just like I have enough tools that I can do it by myself. I will ask my husband different things or whatever, and he knows like when I'm going through different things. His 3 months are like the same as my 3 months, so it's like it
Mhm.
can get a little
Oh
crazy.
no.
Yeah. So, um, but I do normally ask the question, is there anything I can do to support you? Like,
Mhm.
or something like that. Because but then I'm like, now that I just heard you say that, I'm like, maybe they don't know what I could do to support them. So maybe I should just ask a different way. So thank you
Mhm.
for teaching me that. I feel like that as a good way to like a reminder of anybody else listening that if you feel like people are not in your corner, you got to actually look at yourself. Are you doing it? Are you
Yeah.
asking it? Because if you are not, why would anybody else ask you? And you don't need like 10,000 people asking you. You just
No,
need like
gosh.
really 5 people that you trust, or like 3 or 2 or maybe even 1, like
Hmm.
asking you, is there something that, I can do to help? Like, I'm always here. Because like I feel like a lot of the people that I'm really close with will say that, and I just, if I feel like I need their help, I will reach out. It's like, you know, but you also don't want to feel like I always used to feel like a burden.
Me
Some of
too.
the trauma that a lot of us have, especially if we're in this work of doing trauma, it's heavy,
Yeah.
and the average person cannot deal with it. So now
No.
you're not just gonna be randomly telling everybody your trauma, because they're gonna be like, oh my God, I don't even know what to do. You know?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So yeah. Thank you for saying that, because I feel like that is could be a challenge for people, especially when they're starting to face like maybe a new spiritual journey, or coming on to their or a spiritual awakening.
Hey there, I just wanted to take a quick moment to share with all of you spiritual rebels and fempreneurs. If you've been craving a space where you can build wealth, heal trauma, and rise alongside like-minded women, I got something for you to hear about. I'm excited to invite you into the Enlightened Misfits Sisterhood. This is a low-cost, high-impact group membership designed exclusively for spiritual fempreneurs who know they need accountability and support to create sustainable wealth, but aren't ready to dive into a one-on-one mentorship. In this membership, you'll get monthly calls, rituals, healing sessions, and workshops to break through your self-doubt and build confidence so that you can consistently sell your offers and make money. This is also a collaborative private Facebook community where you make lifelong connections with other women who are just as serious as hitting their goals. And my personal guidance as your intuitive human design business guide and trauma healer, ensuring you stay aligned and on track with your business goals. Plus, you'll get free access to all my paid workshops and masterclasses, along with exclusive VIP pricing for my one-on-one Voxer membership. This membership is all about helping you heal the sabotaging behaviors blocking your abundance and using your human design to create a business that feels amazing to run. Imagine waking up excited to serve your clients and knowing that you have the exact support you need to hit every single one of your business goals every single month. So if you're ready to rise and build wealth with a sisterhood of spiritual misfits, make sure you click the registration link in the description box. Right now, the investment is just $88 a month, but the price will increase to $197 a month. Join today to unlock exclusive rates and get access to next month's kickoff call. Let's get back to today's episode, but remember, your next level is just one decision away. Join the sisterhood and let's rise together.
Which that leads me to my next question. How do you support people through, like, maybe do you feel like your clients, your coaching clients, either have like a spiritual awakening before they meet you, or it's kind of like they work with you and then they have that spiritual awakening, or it's both?
I think it's a little of both. And I think I've had a client, former now, who hasn't yet had that spiritual awakening, but I really feel like they're on that route. I
Yeah.
think the beautiful thing about coaching, and I've had a lot of people be like, "Oh, so you're a therapist?" And I'm like, "No, no, 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 no." Um, the beautiful thing about coaching is, and what makes it so different from therapy, is that it's like almost all future focused and it's almost all goal focused. So that's the first thing. One of the first things I ask in a consultation is like, what goals do you have? And it's wild to hear, I will write down what they said in the consultation, and then, I have a little graduation. I usually do about 12 weeks and then we reassess. Um, and then we'll have a little graduation and I will like read back to them some of the things they said in their consultation. And one of them is always their goals. And one of them that just graduated, her first goals were like, I'll do the dishes every day and I'll read a book once a month and I will work out twice a week. Like those were her goals. And at the end, I was like, so, like this goal is accomplished. What are your next goals? And she was like, I really want to open myself up to different ways of healing, because she and I had talked about like Reiki healing, and she really started, like, I feel like I saw the look on her face when I brought it up, and she was like kind of instantly like, nah, mm-mm. But then she like left being like, I think I'm gonna find a Reiki artist healer and work with them. And another one of her goals was to sit with herself more. And she was like, it's like so funny that I don't even like worry about the dishes anymore. Like those aren't my main, like her main focus was like housework, was, showing up in like our little titles and roles, and I think how I best can help is I very rarely have a session that I say sentences. Um, Most of the things I say are questions, and I don't even necessarily need you to have the answer. I just want the question in your head. But I think the beautiful thing about coaching is, and sort of being informed, as you know, is one of the like pillars of that is meeting them where they're at. So if they're really skeptical about Reiki, then I have to meet them there. I can't be like, no, you're wrong. Like, and then they're just going to shut down and be like, all right, bye. It's really about meeting my clients where they're at. And I had to let go of my goals for them. I obviously, I'm a former, this isn't obvious, but I am a former educator. I formerly taught 9th through 12th grade theater and kindergarten, and you would be shocked how similar they are. Maybe you wouldn't. But I think in all of those roles, it's really just like showing up and not trying. So when I was a teacher, it was like teach to the test, achieve these standards, like they have to do this, they have to be here, this, they have to meet this, and this objective. And when you take that away, that structure away, and those limiting beliefs is what they really are, away, and sort of open end those questions and open end those goals, I think for me as a coach, my goal for them now is always to get them where, they need to be to reach those goals. But it took a couple handful of clients for me not to be like, oh, I want you to get to this destination because I know you'll flourish there. So I want you to get here. But that's not their path. That's where I wanted them to go. So, and that same thing I think happened to all of us in our generations lately, these last couple, that, we're like, oh, this is the path. You go down this path. So once I let go of that, I think that really opened up me as a coach, and my clients really only benefited. But I'll get like, I'll like ask a question and they'll say yes. And I'm like, okay, like, yes, but like, where's that yes coming from? And they're like, I mean, like, yeah, I said yes, like, that's just next question. And I'm like, but we got to sit in that. Like, we have to sit with it. And I think people don't meet themselves where they're at either.
Yeah.
I know I wasn't. And I don't think I've had a lot of clients say like, you're, in the way that I've told my therapist, like, you're the first person that's demonstrated patience with me. The first like authoritative figure, quote unquote, that's shown patience with me and apologized to me. That was big. I've never had an authority figure apologize to me. And that was like, what? But I think I've had clients say like, I've never had someone, in this sort of role, like meet me where I'm at and like really be willing to sit even on both sides of a fence with them. Because, we talked very briefly earlier about our health and our healing journey. And I think I try not to push that with my coaching clients. And I know my best friend that I mentioned earlier, who built her life coaching business, she is wellness and fitness and health, but she also knows a lot about that. And so I try not to lead people in one direction or the other. But I am very lucky to have a PCP here that really meets holistic with Western, which is sort of where I sit. Because I've tried the completely Western medicine way and it did not go well at all. I was just a literal zombie, and I hated it. And I think it made me worse. But I've also tried the completely holistic way. And I was like, wow, it helped, but I just need just a little something more.
Yeah.
And I've like had none of them have like been the same for years and years and years. Besides, well, yeah, none of them have been the same year after year after year. But I think I've heard you talk previously on the podcast of like they can really be used as like I really needed to get this symptom controllable before I could control it. But then
Right.
when I got there and got controlling it, I did have a habit of being like, I'm better now, bye. And then they're like, you weren't depressed because of the antidepressant. And I was like, that's true. That's true. But
Very true. Yeah.
now that I'm like, I want off this medicine and I've never had like a medical professional be like, okay, well, how are we supporting it? Like, what are we supplementing it with? Are we going to therapy? Are we doing, you know, whatever sort of, not even just talk therapy? Are we gonna like do massage therapy? Are we gonna do chiropractic? Like, what? How are we? If we're stopping this medicine, we're not just cold turkeying. Um,
Right.
and I think that's really rare to have in the medical world is
Yeah.
like somebody who's open to both of like oils and, the holistic methods and treatments in Eastern medicine, but also like sees the validity in Western meds. I also appreciate that I've never been like asked like, so you want this med? Like it's always like, how do you want to, like we have a couple options here. How do you want to
Right.
attack it? So I try to bring that. And that has like truly been, I've lost 100 pounds working with her.
Oh, wow.
But yeah,
Congratulations.
thank
Neat.
you. In the last 2 years, which I think
I need her. If you're in Delaware, I'm like, I need her.
yeah. Oh, I will. I love her.
I
And
was gonna say, yeah, I was gonna say because I actually was just talking to a friend literally yesterday,
yeah,
and he was like, I'm gonna go to a functional medicine doctor because I like my PCP. He's great, whatever. But
yeah.
I feel like mine is more deeper than
Hmm.
all this. In mine, I know it's high cortisol. I know it's like, I know it could be maybe some trauma.
Hmm.
I need something like a functional medicine doctor, like somebody that, yes, like I said, Western medicine works like when you need it to work,
Yeah.
like an antibiotic. Don't be doing, you can do holistic stuff, sure, but sometimes you just need medicine. Sometimes you just need
Hmm.
to go to the doctor and get medicine. But it's
Yeah.
not all the time.
Yeah.
Like it didn't like he before, like if like the way that I sound now and the way that I felt, my mom would be like, let's go to the doctor.
Hmm.
Why do I need to go? Like, why don't I just take Mucinex over the counter and set intent? This is me. I did that. Take Mucinex over the counter. I set the intention that is going to help me with this cough, whatever's going on. And it's going to I'm going to burn away this whatever. Like, that's what I'm talking about. Like, if I said that to the doctor, he'd be like, what? What are you talking about? Like,
Yeah.
okay, whatever works for you.
I think if you said that to my PCP, she would literally, I've said a very similar thing, and she would say, like, do you know that they don't tell you with Mucinex that you have to drink like a copious amount of water for that medicine to work, but they don't even tell you that. So
That's
most
why I
people,
feel so dry. Like everything just
yeah, you have to drink so much water. But when I
okay.
did drink a ton of water, it was like a fountain. And I was like, oh, but like no one told me that before her. So I say that to say, like, I think it's important to have that. It's very rare to have her like catch that and be like, okay, here's more information about where you are, where your thinking is, and
Right.
not be like, that's all right, Lauren. All right, like
Yeah.
let's get back to this way.
Yeah.
Okay, sweetie. Yeah.
Let's get. I'm gonna prescribe you 16 different antibiotics, an inhaler, this steroid, that steroid. Like
Yeah.
that's really that's what like goes through my mind because it's not like I haven't had like I don't know if it's sinus infection, maybe it's like bronchitis or like I don't even want to label myself as that because like it
Yeah.
doesn't feel like any of it. It just feels like
Mhm.
I traveled and then I'm back in a different environment and like this is what happens and people are sick.
Have
So
you
it's
cleansed yourself since you gotten back?
yeah, I
Oh.
did. I got in the shower. I got in like a spiritual cleanse when I got back. when did I get back? Tuesday.
That helps
So
me, but I
Tuesday.
always forget it.
Yeah. Which I feel that's why when I say I have to like get when I get on like I had to get on calls yesterday and then like the podcast and I have to like facilitate my own membership this afternoon that I'm gonna like I know that they're like they can listen to my voice and they're probably like God she sounds so crappy but I really don't like it's just my
Mm-hmm.
and like I, occasionally this cough that sounds disgusting but
Yeah. Yeah.
that's why mute works so I can just cough and nobody
Beautiful, beautiful button.
yeah so yeah so I feel like that was I just spiraled out of
That's yeah. My ADHD saw your ADHD.
yeah I
They
was gonna
hit
say
it.
like I was just yeah but anyway coming back to it like yes Western medicine
Yeah.
and stick I feel like is super important like
Hmm.
because you I feel like you can't like we need Western medicine like we
Hmm.
do like with
We do.
surgeries and like just different stuff like it saves people's lives it really does I
Hmm.
mean that's kind of why I went into what I went into like doing high risk OB or the medical field in general just doing ultrasound you
Hmm.
know I wanted to help people I didn't want to be a nurse I didn't want to be a doctor but I
Hmm.
wanted to help people and you know I'm not the one that gives the diagnosis when I did ultrasound, but I was the one that found it to help with whatever they were going through, you
Yeah.
know? So it was like I also heard that part too of the Western medicine. And at that time, I was kind of getting into more holistic stuff. And it just didn't make any sense to me. And I was like, and literally
Mm.
it was like a light bulb went in my off my mind. And I was like, this is literally just a business. This is
Yeah.
literally just how much money can we get from the insurance company? How much thing can we build this? How much can we make people pay? How much? And I
Hmm.
was like, oh my God, this is literally just a business. And this is not helping people. I mean, and then I was like, yeah, I think, and then I was going through my own thing, you know, and I was just like, I have to get out because it just wasn't for me anymore. And I
Hmm.
mean, some people get scared, you know?
Have you tried, not to like derail a little bit, have you tried like fire cider ever? Does that help you?
What is that?
I'll have to send you it. It's I make it and have it for the winter, but it's like apple cider vinegar and turmeric and ginger and jalapenos, and you just like let them all marry each other. But
Okay.
if you like Google fire cider, you'll find it, but I'll send you what I use. And it like a teaspoon, it's horrible, but a teaspoon of that, like you can like feel it.
Okay.
And there's one of my clients actually, I mentioned that to him, and he was like, I've had heartburn for years, which same.
Me
And
too.
now a tablespoon of that every day, and he like hasn't taken his Prilosec. So he was like, "Oh yeah, I forgot I haven't like had to rebuy that." Like, and he didn't
Oh,
even like pay attention until he was like, "Oh yeah, it was time to like get new meds," and it was still full. So I think like that's the importance of, again, meeting them where they're at. But it's funny that you also mentioned like, oh, this is a business. Um, because I think that's one of the biggest things I was trying to not do with my coaching, is just make it be a business. I always say like with my practices, I know, work this business and really live off of it alone, but that's not why I got into coaching. I got into coaching as a passion project and to help people. So I've had clients that aren't even seeing me anymore, but we're still working on a payment plan. And I never say like, oh, a session is $120, because it's so like client to client base. And I feel like that's another way where I need to meet them where they're at. And that really just is because I'm really passionate about increasing accessibility. And I know like finances, life, I think you've mentioned knowing yourself that life coaching is a really strong tool, but I think it's often inaccessible financially to people. So I strive to not just be like, oh, this is just a money project for me. Um, but it's changed, I think, how and they show up.
yeah, I was going to say, I love that you say that too, because I've had conversations with people that I've noticed got into life coaching, healing, whatever they call themselves, and they have a business and they did it for the money, like per se.
Yeah.
And then that also, when like age of Aquarius, when people are Aquarius, you probably don't, if you did that, if you got into coaching for ego, like strictly ego, like money, this is all I'm in here for, then you probably don't have a business, or you don't have anybody that's asking to work with you, I should say. And
No.
if you don't have any clients, you don't have a business. You know what I mean? So yes, I do. I've had conversations, or I should say, or if you don't have clients, it's because you are not working through your own stuff to clear
Hmm.
out that different stuff. So it's like, it's not everybody else's fault that you don't have probably because you have to clear out trauma. And I feel
Mhm.
like even every level, like, and I'm sure you can agree, I feel like people think that like they're healed, but they're not. Like it's a journey. And I was people. I was that person when I started.
Mhm.
I thought, oh, when I get through this, if I can just get through this, I can be there or whatever. And it was like every single time I did that for like a year, I missed all of the moments, literally, to try to go back to the moments of, I missed that moment. Or, like here it's a year later and I didn't even experience that whole year because I was always focused on what I could do next, or like what I
Mm.
could different, or like whatever. And I feel like now it's more important about the moments and how
Yeah.
I experience the moments, because like the next like 5 minutes ago we'll never get that back, like 10 minutes ago we'll never get that back. So it's like, but I feel like us, just people that have multifaceted trauma, that's just how they're
Yeah.
wired. Regardless of how much healing they have done, they're always just focused on how they can do better, what they can do next. Probably mixed with ADHD as well. But like,
Yeah.
it's like, it's always for me, for me, it's been boundaries, especially with myself, with my business,
Hmm.
because I feel like I will burn myself. I used to burn no, I don't do it anymore, but I would burn myself out trying to help people. Or,
Yeah.
when it comes to raising my prices, and, I did a lot of stuff for free in the beginning. Now I don't do anything for free. It comes to like master classes. And I always tell people when they're working with me, I'm like, when they tell me free, I'm like, no, you're not doing a master class for free. You're just not doing it. That's why are you doing that? Charge.
Hmm.
If it's $5, it's $5. If it's $10, it's $10, because you're going to keep attracting those free people that then you're going to be frustrated and pissed off that they're not paying you. It's because that's what you're attracting, and I did the same thing. So it's like, I stopped doing that. And then I started attracting people that would pay you. So I love that you're doing it where you're meeting people where you're at, but you're also honoring,
Yeah.
I don't want to say your worth, because none of us can charge our worth, to be honest,
Yeah.
more than what we charge. So it's
Yeah.
like, I also don't like when people say that, oh, charge your worth. Why? Like, worth has nothing to do with charge. Like
Hmm.
money, like they're completely different things. But I
Hmm.
also see people, coaches, say that too as well. And I'm like, that's so wrong. Stop telling people that. Like, it's just, but I'm like, I guess we'll have to learn the hard way on, experiences with clients on how that's not true, because that's just how we learn,
Yeah.
right?
And I think it depends on what currency you're talking about, because sure, I charge a financial amount,
Right.
but especially the ones who, are on like the lower price points, I find myself like giving them more homework or making
Mhm.
them like dig a little deeper, and like I want you to show up in, how I'm charging you in your time and in your effort and in your ways that you can, question yourself and sit with yourself. So I try to like see wealth as multifaceted.
Oh yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. And then another thing I wanted to say, before we wrap up, I love what you were saying, like people love to say they're healed. And I try to never use the like former, like the not the former, the past tense of that. Um, and you'll never hear me say like, oh, I'm a recovered addict, because I don't think you ever are recovered. There's never gonna be a day that I'm not gonna a little bit have to fight that. Even, like I'm never gonna be like, oh, okay, yeah, let me just go to my DOC again, and I'll just have one and it'll be fine. Like I don't have that brain. My brain will be like, oh, we're having one? Okay.
Yeah.
Well, we're not
I
going to
love,
stop at one.
yeah.
So it's
I
like
love,
I'm recovering. I'm working on it every day. I'm working on it in every new situation, and I'm healing in every way and all the time. And I think people who say that they're healed have a lot of healing to do. Um, but I also I work with my clients in little ways in sessions, and we talk about signing up. So, I'll use drinking, for example. If you're like dieting and you're eating cleaner and you're trying to watch calories or macros, and you're like girls want to go out and have a bunch of drinks, I feel like a lot of people meet that with like, oh, I can go or I can't go. When it's like there's options there, but you have to be willing to sign up for it. So I would like question with my clients where they're like, oh, I think, especially in couples, like I think we're gonna do this and I think he's doing this because of X, when they just sort of like jump to their own conclusions because they are trying to sign up for parts of it. So with the drinking, and especially if your body is getting healthy, getting used to healthier whole foods and, not drinking calories, it's going to react differently for one. But I would tell them, like, you have to sign up for the whole experience. You have to sign up for, the prices of the drinks and going out and all of that and having fun, but you're signing up for being bloated tomorrow. You're signing up for the possible hangover. You're signing up for this number on the scale being bigger than you want it to be. And you have to like say yes to all of that. You can't just say yes to the fun part. And coaching and working with me or healing, I think is the same, is like you can't just say yes to some parts of it and think that, oh, I'll just cherry pick these little things and I'll be okay. Like you have to eat the whole cookie, not just the little crumbles. And I think that's where a lot of conversations is missed. And a lot of opportunities are even missed because you think you're signing up for what you want, but you didn't sign up for the 10 rejections before you got the one offer letter. You didn't sign up for, at first I would say I didn't sign up for I always offer a free consultation first. And I just like didn't sign up for so many people walking away from it and not like being interested. But now that I'm like signing up for the rejection and the, you know, whole whole kit and caboodle, I feel like I can be a better coach and I can show up better. And I think they show up better too, because that's the conversation we'll have is like, you're signing up for it all. Like there's going to be homework and there's, you're going to have to really do some work and ask yourself some hard questions, and it's going to be uncomfortable. And it's not going to be like, I think life coaching is very romanticized and glamorized on social media sometimes. And people think it's just like, oh, this little chit chat with a gal pal. And it can feel that way. I hope my sessions do. But I hope it is with a gal pal who has a lot of tough love and, can really hold that mirror up, because I didn't get any of my goals by staying in my comfort zone. And signing up for only the things that brought me joy, or in my addiction, the things that brought me a high. Like I was signing up for the parts I wanted, and then when I had to deal with the other parts, I like didn't know how to face it, and I didn't know what to do with it because I hadn't signed up for it. I was like, well, I didn't want that. But you can't really have one without the other. And I think that's what I try to connect with for my clients.
Yeah, I was gonna say I love that. I'm gonna use that too. I actually joke and say like I didn't sign up for this, but clearly,
Hmm.
it's like that whole like I have dark humor too, especially like when
Yeah,
I'm like
I
really don't
love
know how
that
to
book.
take myself. I'm like I just like make fun of myself or whatever, like, but it's like it's not in a bad way. It's kind of like I need to stop taking. I had to learn very quickly that like I need to stop taking stuff so personal. Like
Mm.
nobody really gives a shit. And I literally say this to my clients. Like when they're like, I'm scared of public speaking, like I'm a little bit more compassionate, about
Yeah.
it. But I'm
Yeah.
like, nobody really gives a shit. Like
No.
cares. Nobody cares about, they care about what you have to say, obviously, but that's only if they follow you or like they're, they want to subscribe to what you're saying. Sure.
Mhm.
But like, it's literally all us, like the whole public speaking and being scared and all that. Like that's a normal human function. Like,
Mhm.
I've talked to tons of keynote speakers like that actually do this for a living. And I have asked them the question, do you get scared before you go on stage? And they're like, yes, immediately when I walk on stage. But then it just like, your heart, if you speak from your heart and you speak from your sacral and you just speak,
Mhm.
like your ego and your mind gets out of the way, so
Mhm.
it's like, so I was like, okay, so like this is normal. And they're like,
Yeah.
yes, it is normal. Like you are a normal human.
Mhm.
Like if you aren't and you're very confident and like what, that could kind of go down the wrong way,
Yeah.
but yeah, I did ask like that, just like an example of that. So
I
I do
love
like
that.
that you said like signing up for everything, not just signing up for the good parts, not just signing up. I mean, nobody signs up for the bad parts, but like you
No,
sign up
yeah.
for everything. Like, and originally you sign up for the good parts and then, it always, comes together. That's a really good reminder, I feel like, and hopefully,
Mhm.
anybody that's listening, it's a really good reminder because if you're going through a hard time, I feel like just remember you signed up for this. And if someone
Yeah.
that you really love, now I'm not saying the people that are trying to get out of relationships or
Right, right, right,
that are in abusive relationships, no, you did not sign up for that. You obviously signed up for that experience and opportunity to get to never like to move forward from that. That's the only thing that I say. I'd say that none of us deserve abuse, but
right.
we have to experience so we don't continue to experience it. And
Mhm.
sometimes, like me, you have to experience a little bit longer in your life
Gotta
than
learn that lesson a few times.
yeah, like
Yeah.
more than a few times, maybe six, like whatever
Mhm. Been there.
it is. So, where can everybody find you? I will also have all your links in the description box.
Yeah. So I am not super on social media anymore,
Okay.
a little bit due to the state of the world, but I am on Blue Sky. And something that is important to me because I do primarily work with the queer whew, the queer community. Sometimes we have to do things a little bit differently, in this community and things need to be a little more discreet. So I am on Signal. So it's a little bit more private for the people who, may not be out or partners
Okay.
don't think that coaching is a safe thing, they're trying to get out of those relationships. So I am on that. And I have like a newsletter, but everything is housed on my link tree, which I will send you the link and they can find
Okay.
everything there. And I tonight will put a button up for the Enlightened Misfits listeners, that has a little sign up, a little info packet. But I would also like to offer your listeners a free session. The first session is obviously free for the consultation, but I would like the first one, to give a little try if you're wanting to. Um, that option is there, so you can click Enlightened Misfits for a while and it'll be there. But my email and the sign up forms is all on that link tree.
Yay. Thank you so much. That
Yeah,
is so sweet of you. That is really
yeah,
sweet to give for you to give that.
yeah. Well, this
Like,
podcast has given, I think, a lot. So I always want to, give back to people like you who are really, I feel like I have podcasts where I'm like, oh, I can't listen to that one when I'm in a good mood or a bad mood because like they're like loud and crazy and funny, or like I can't listen to that one when I work because I pay too much attention to it. But I feel like with this podcast, I haven't found a situation where I haven't like it hasn't been a good companion,
oh,
and I think that is probably because it's so intuitive and I don't feel like, oh, she's having the same conversation she had last week. Oh, she's
oh,
having
my
the same
conversations are all
conversation.
over the place.
Yeah.
But where I don't even know, like niching my podcast, I don't even, besides, speaking about entrepreneurs most of the time that they have some type of entrepreneur journey or
Yeah.
something like that. But no, it's all over the place. I
Yeah.
just
I
like,
love it. We love it.
whatever.
So keep
Like
on
it's,
keeping on for sure.
yeah. I like that. Thank you for that feedback.
No problem.
Thank you so much for joining us on today's episode with Ren on Enlightened Misfits podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and then share this with somebody that you feel that would gain knowledge from listening. Stay tuned for more captivating conversations in the future. I hope you have an amazing rest of your week, and I will see you next time.
Thank you for joining us on another enlightening episode on the Enlightened Misfits podcast. If you are a current or inspiring to be fempreneur, suffering from the fear of being seen and or feel very triggered when you're building your business, reach out to me at The Mermaid Light about my Rich and Resilient Biz Baddies. This is a collective text message Voxer support group designed to help you heal your triggers and turn imposter syndrome into bad bitch energy. If you resonate with our conversations and insight, don't forget to subscribe, rate the show, and leave a review. Your feedback fuels our mission. Remember, your journey to unwavering certainty and purpose is ongoing. So please make sure you stay connected with us on social media. Keep manifesting greatness in your life. Until next time, this is Lauren from the Enlightened Misfits podcast. Stay enlightened, stay inspired, and keep manifesting your extraordinary path.